What's up, everybody? Metal Dave here, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, bringing you another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Today, we are joined by vocalist Paul Skowron. You may know him best from the band Noisy Mama. They had a record out in 1991 on Atco Records called Everybody Has One. And Paul has been busy since 1991 doing various music projects. So we talked to him about that, where he is today. He's actually sort of rejuvenated Noisy Mama, has a show coming up in April. I think is working on some new music. So we'll see if we get a second resurgence of Noisy Mama. If you haven't heard of them before, you can find their hit single, Heart of Stone, is on YouTube. You can find it there, and I bet once you listen to it, you're going to go, I've heard that song before.
It's the old MTV video that you're going to be directed to. So
yeah. And I bet you'll go, oh yeah, I remember that song.
It was probably on Headbangers Ball.
Yep.
Quite a few times. And they're a band from Youngstown, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And some of you might not have ever heard of Youngstown, Ohio, but now you have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not exactly the hotbed of rock and roll, but
well, you could say the same thing about Sealands Grove, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where Dirty Looks is from. So
right.
So
yeah. So no points taken off if you've never heard of Youngstown, Ohio as being a breeding ground for rock bands. But Noisy Mama did come from Youngstown, Ohio. They did sign with a major. They did get a video on MTV. They had a song on the radio, Heart of Stone, and it was good stuff. I think it was overlooked because it came out in 91. You know, as everyone listening to the show is aware, grunge started coming in and taking over, and bands of that era and that ilk kind of got pushed to the wayside. But in quick synopsis, if you've never heard of Noisy Mama, I've mentioned to Paul on the show that I hear shades of Cinderella, I hear shades of Great White, I hear shades of a band called Johnny Crash. In fact, I think Paul's voice sounds very much like Vicky James Wright from Johnny Crash. So if you're a fan of any of those bands and you're not aware of Noisy Mama, you might want to check it out.
Yeah, I feel like they were like a bluesier, packed more of a punch, kind of a party band, and not all of the songs have that. I mean, it sounded like I just described Poison or something, but or even Van Halen, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about Van Halen, if you pour AC/DC all over it, it's pretty much what it feels like. And the players are no slouch. They're not slouches. They're playing their asses off. We found out today, I wasn't quite sure the connection with the late great James Kotak on drums, who James recently passed. As well as the bass. Some of the bass was done by Jeff Pilson, who's known for Dokken and 1,000 other things.
Right.
Came in and did 3 tunes for the label demos.
Right.
And then had the rest of the band. The rest is history. But this guy Paul Skowron has a great story, and it was awesome getting to hear it. A to Z today here on the Talk Louder podcast.
I've been listening to your record, your former record, 1991, I believe this is, Noisy Mama. Everybody has one. Great overlooked record. Take us back to that time and tell us about the creation of that album. You were on a major label, Atco, and you had the single was on MTV, so you had some traction. Things were going. Take us back to that time. Tell us about that era, and then in maybe in your opinion, why did things not take off?
Well, I think that first of all, we started as White Noise, and that was all the way in '82 when I joined that project, and it worked its way up to finally getting Atco to come out and see us. At that point, we actually opened up for Donnie Irish, and Mark Ross from Atco came down and they signed us, right there in 89, 90. And we just basically moved to New York City. Three of us, actually, the two guitar players, Jimmy Gamina and Dave Scott, and I moved on to 55th Street, and we started writing the record.
Yeah.
So after that, we started looking at different producers, different, just trying to grasp what we were doing, where we were going, and everything like that.
What? Why the name change? Because you were White Noise, and then when this album came out, you were suddenly Noisy Mama. What was the reason for that?
I actually, I got fired from the band for a time because I lost my voice. It went away, and at that point, I really didn't know enough about vocalizing to, I guess, have a grip on it. I took some amazing vocal lessons with Dr. Vogel from Dana School of Music. Put my band together, Motherload. So then they had actually brought in a guy named Paul Navu, which I called my evil twin, which, he was a fantastic songwriter, great frontman. And so we had White Noise and we had Motherload. And actually, Paul Navu was the one who called me and said, "Hey, Moose, this thing ain't burning bright and blue with me. I got you got to join the band again." So their singer called me, and I went back into the band. And the first night out, as kind of as a joke, we decided not to call it White Noise, so we called it Noisy Mama. Just put the two names together, Motherload and White Noise.
There you go. Yeah.
There it was.
Yeah.
During you telling that story, I was hearing the band names and then you kind of moving around and dance and sway, and I'm going, wait a minute, and White Noise, Motherload, starting to feel that as you're telling the story. That's good. I like it when it kind of works out that way. I always thought Noisy Mama was a great band name, and I think that title, everybody has one, is intriguing and has enough guessing game going on. It's like, well, everyone's got a fucking asshole.
Opinion.
And not everyone has a dog or a cat, but everyone's got an asshole. So
yeah. Well, it's funny because when we were White Noise, Jimmy's mom and Carl's mom, both of them were Italian. So they would really, they would take care of us, they would feed us. I always said I would walk into one of their homes and food would automatically, the refrigerator door would open and here comes the food, man, bam, onto the table automatically. So, we thought of our mothers too. And the Noisy Mama thing, the label really loved it. And I was quite happy to just be there and start working on it.
Well, I wasn't calling anybody's mother an asshole. But everyone has a mother too.
You better not. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, it's a term of endearment at best. So.
Yeah, on this show anyway.
Yeah. We're all pretty happy going guys here. So
yeah. So the album came out in 91, and we all know the musical tides were shifting at that time. And I feel like, based on the sound of the band and the record, you guys were probably, is it safe to say, a victim of timing? Because I think if this album came out in 88, 89 even, it might have, made a little more noise.
Maybe even a few years even earlier than that.
Yeah.
86 or something.
Because I was going to comment on Paul's vocal style. When I listen to it, I hear there's parts where I hear Tom Kiefer, so there's some Cinderella in here. But the guy that stands out to me that I thought of immediately was Vicky James Wright from Johnny Crash. And so I feel like there's a sound, there's an element of the sound of Noisy Mama that would have been right at home, as Jason says, in maybe 86, 87, 89, somewhere in that span.
I feel, if I may comment before, I want to get Paul's opinion, of course, but I feel like there was like this class of 89 that was doomed. It was like, it was like well, let's go ahead.
Right.
Since the guns are doing so good, let's go ahead and throw a bunch of money at these bands that are doing the same kind of thing. And of course, in their eyes, it was going to work. And we were, I'll speak for myself, along for the ride. And, this is fleeting. This is not going to last very long. So I'm going to live it up and write the best, cock rock song I can and get on as many tours as I can and meet as many people as I can, because you don't know when this is going to end. And this would have been right around the time that your record came out, 1991. Is that right?
Oh yeah, we were actually we had released Heart of Stone on MTV, and that was our first single. We kind of wanted to do Long Way Home first, which was our ballad slash anthem song.
Yeah.
So Jimmy and I were actually on a radio tour during that time, singing Long Way Home, getting ready to make a video for that and release it. And all of a sudden, our Atco rep was like not there, and then he's on the phone, which there were no cell phones back then. So he's back in the office of the radio station. He's talking to people. All of a sudden, he says, "What's going on here?" And he says, "Well, Atco just merged with East West Records, and I have no idea what's going to happen." So there it was.
Well, and also there was another style of music more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
all of a sudden there was, the dollar bill was flying another direction. So a lot of A&R people, a lot of labels, as on top of the mergers that were happening around that time. And a lot of bands were already on the road and had already had a record out. And that was happening while they were, it was Spinal Tap. They were showing up to in stores and shit and signings and shit, and there's no product because the mergers, I mean, they're culling shit off the shelf so they can repackage it and put it back out there. And by that time, I think half of the bands who got signed in 87, 88 and had a record out summer 89 and went on, or even later, and went on the road, the labels were like, yeah, why? Why make us another record with these guys? If they're the other likenesses are not selling, and the obvious are that bands from Seattle are a trend now, which I think bands from Seattle hated being a trend after a while. They were happy to be successful, but I think they were also like kind of punk rock and sort of hoping they would be able to have some stamina in the business and not be a flash. And some of them were a flash, just like some of the cock rock bands too. So it's kind of interesting how that panned out. It was kind of, no one knew where that business was going to go. Do you have any opinions about that era? And, you say you were doing a radio tour and pushing a record, and then all of a sudden your A&R guy's not in the room anymore, and start retell that story and go further with it.
Well, again, I know music has to change and evolve. I just wish it would have waited another year, but because Long Way Home,
buddy, you and me both.
Yeah, Jason.
Just for a second. I mean, come on, we just put out this fucking record because I put a record out in '91 too, and it was like, meh. That was kind of how it was received by the tastemakers,
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't find his A&R guy either.
Yeah, my A&R was some 20-year-old kid. I was like, who are you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I would say that, again, music had to change. I think the stuff was not my cup of tea, but great in many ways, Nirvana. And in fact, I remember when we were shopping to do our first video, and they show you a bunch of producers and a bunch of videos that have been done by them, and I'm looking at this video and there's a cow in it, and I'm like, what? Where's all the girls? There's a cow in this movie, or in this video, and here it's Man in the Box, and that was my first inkling, and I really didn't know. I just was being a lead singer, trying to write songs and tour and everything like that.
That's good. I think that I never even thought about that until you say it. There's a cow and there's no girls. Well, that could relate to, and this is maybe far fetched, that could relate to something I said a second ago about how we're changing the landscape by not having all these slutty looking girls in a rock video shaking their butts around and looking like we're in a titty bar doing shots of Jack Daniels. It was a completely different, dirtier, coming from maybe they felt like it was artistic, but it was maybe another side of anything that's girls. We are not anything with like leotards and big hair. We're gonna not do that. And I want to say that the directors who were making videos were also on board with trying something different, because I don't know who made your videos, but it could have been, I'm not throwing rocks here, but it could have been the same guy that made my videos, the same guy that made the Cinderella videos, the same guy that made the Poison videos, and they all started to look, neon and girls and blah, and the band in a bar doing shots, and it's like,
yep, that all went away.
That was
and now it's all coming. It's all coming back now, though. I mean, people want to, M3
in a way,
and all those stuff.
In a way, but see, it's nostalgic time.
Right.
That's a nostalgic thing, because here we are in our 50s and 60s and some even older, writing songs about our dicks, and it's kind of I ain't got no dick anymore, kind of like, you have to be able to make fun of yourself.
Always.
Always. Exactly. Even if and I feel like bands like AC/DC and Aerosmith, they were making fun when they were writing songs that had all the innuendos and everything. They've been making fun of themselves the entire time. And I think that's important. And when a lot of, I hate the term hair metal, but all that shit became a parody of itself. It started eating itself, and it's like, this is too sugary, and this is too bright, and this is too. It started to even feel that way for me. I'll speak for myself when I say that. It started to kind of feel that way for me. It wasn't that I was following any other trends. It was just like, man, this is starting to look the same all the time. It doesn't just put a different band name on the photo. It just got weird for a minute. How do you feel about that? And what was your idea to move on?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I was tired of being poor. So, I mean, yeah.
Amen to that. You got to eat.
Yeah. I mean, I had, after we were done with Noisy Mama, we put a record out, Hounds of Desire, Balls, which, that Interscope record had heard one of our songs called Nervous Breakdown Baby. And this guy, he approached our managers, and they're like, we were still trying to make something happen. And, we did a whole record based on that song, because we were actually writing some really cool breakthrough stuff that was not, tits and ass and everything like that. It was more like, deeper lyrics and
that's the answer I was looking for. You started to grow up a little bit. Yep. You almost had no choice because of the comments I said a little while ago. You're not 19 years old anymore with a heart on. Your dog's been run over 100 times and you're pissed off, or you have these emotions that you feel when you're 30, 40, 50 and older, that you don't have any fucking idea what that's all about when you're writing songs about, race cars and headbanging, So
right. And like we were we called it the Foundry, and it was a little mini studio we had. We were up there really, digging deep. We wrote a song called Strength, Love, Faith, which I to this day want to play it live again, because it was just so cool, and it was heavy, powerful, but it had great lyrics. But when Interscope came around, we wrote a whole nother hard rock record, which actually rocks a lot harder than Everybody Has One. I mean, it was heavy. But the guy that approached us, he really didn't have the clout. He couldn't make it happen, and that was about the end of it right there. So we decided to part company, and Jimmy moved to New York, and Dave moved to Arizona, and Chris moved back to Boston, and Tommy went back to Cleveland, and we just that was it. I moved along. I started a company, it's called Artistic Concepts, and did that for a good long while now. And now I'm back in it again. I'm wanting to retire again as a musician and do whatever I can, producing or writing with people or performing while I can. I mean, I won't perform when I start sucking. I'll be done performing. Okay. But I'm still able to do it. And that's what M3 showed me. I mean, doing that show kind of opened my eyes to, okay, first of all, people want to hear this music again. Second of all, it's out there, it's available, and I could still do it. So I was quite happy those guys gave me that shot.
I'm sorry, Dave. Real quick, what year was it that kind of, I don't want to say fizzled, but those, you were kind of like, you made 93. A record and 93. Okay.
93, right. 94.
Yeah. Okay.
That was about, the end of it, and we were done. And Jimmy and I actually, we worked together afterwards on a band. We had put a band together called Ether, and we did a demo with, or an EP basically with that. And we kept working together sparsely. I would fly up to New York and we would write, and we would, and those songs are all still sitting, waiting to be performed again, or something to be done with them.
Yeah, here's a question for both of you, since you were both in the game around the same time. And I wasn't going to ask this question. It wasn't on my list of questions, but I'm hearing hints of this throughout the conversation. So we're talking about an era of music that, basically went away and was replaced by something else. And now you're talking about, there's things like M3, there's the Monsters of Rock cruise. There are events that sort of celebrate this era of music. And we were talking earlier, and you guys were both mentioning that the audience for that type of music tends to be people our age, guys and girls that are in their 40s and 50s or whatever. So my question to you guys is, because we just had a young metal band on the show, a band called Fugitive, and they're young thrash metal dudes, and they're seeing sort of they're young enough to speak to this. They're seeing, and we're seeing, an audience that sort of goes back and celebrates the Metallicas and the Panteras and the Slayers. And these are young kids that grew up on a generation or two beyond those bands. They were into heavy music, but they're going back and they're finding the forefathers, if you will. So do you see any opportunity for younger kids to go back and rediscover Dangerous Toys, Noisy Mama?
It's already happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening, and it's been happening. And you're saying M3 and there's other festivals as well, but of course Monsters of Rock, and then the Monsters of Rock production people throw a festival in Tennessee it used to be called Monsters on the Mountain. Now it's just called the Mountain Festival.
Right.
And it's the same ilk, it's to be general. It's just hard rock and metal bands from the 80s that had records out that at least charted and had a couple of marginal hits on MTV. That's pretty much what they're asking for. Very few young or bands sort of on the rise get on the bill. And they have some kind of nepotism going on or something is how they get on the bill. But anyway, the point is, it's a great question. The point that I was going to add to your suggestion as maybe why it's happening for, in heavier music, because there's a lot of young people. I see it all the time. Is heavier, and they also collect vinyl. There's all these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids who collect vinyl, and even younger, as Dave knows. He has a son who's all about it. But the point, Sirius radio, satellite radio, has a lot to do And you know, and the DJs that have shows on any kind of, you know, Ozzy's Boneyard or whatever, you know, but they do the same thing with heavier music. I don't know the names of all of them. Liquid Metal, I think, is one of them. There's a bunch of like satellite radio stations that basically won't let these catalogs die.
But what I'm asking is, are kids embracing it? Like 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds?
This is the way they listen to music. So yes, they're finding it because this is the way of the child.
Right, but is their preference? What I'm asking is there a younger generation whose preference is? I know it's available, but are they tuning in? Are you seeing it, Paul? Are you seeing it, Jason? I know you've seen some of it, but is there an audience out there of 15, 16-year-old kids who are all of a sudden into Rat and Poison and Motley Crue and Dangerous Toys? And
I would say yes.
I would say, all right, first, we did our first Noisy Mama show, okay? We did, you know, back on July 1st. It was, I put it together quick. I booked a club that only seats like 300 people, and I just wanted to see what would happen, you know? We put it out there on the internet. We tried to target, you know, as many different sites as we could. And I would say we had at least 25% of the people were young people that I had never met in my life. Some of them came with their parents, I would say, but in a lot of ways, I really feel that they were tired of being depressed by, you know, grunge music, because it's kind of depressing if you think about it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think, you know, I don't really put any music down, because I think all music is great as long as it's a good song. I'm there. You know, Midnight at the Oasis, love it. You know, I love some rap and things like that. But I think even rap, you know, that's kind of hard on the ears after a certain point. They just want to hear some melodic hard rock. It's powerful chords. So I'd say yes. I think it's growing. It's up to us to put it out there to them, to make them know it's there.
Yeah.
To add to that, I see it on the cruise. I see young people everywhere on the cruises, and they are there with their families who are all wearing Motorhead t-shirts and shit.
Right.
But here's their 14, 15-year-old sons and daughters also wearing a Motorhead t-shirt. So they're walking around wanting to do photos with you, and it's like, you know, I used to go, wow, this is really weird. These little kids wanting to take their photos and, you know, sign shit. It's like, how did you hear about, oh, here's my brother and here's my dad, we're all totally into it, man, our house is rocking all the time. And here's a story that's also relative. I used to work at a record store, and this was a while ago now. There was a guy come in, he was a fairly young man, and he comes in and he goes, you know, he might have been 30, 28, you know, something like that. You know, and I offered to help him. Can I help you find something? And he was like, I think that you can, because here's my thing. And you mentioned rap, and you also mentioned that grunge is depressing. Well, you could say Black Sabbath is depressing, and you could say Black Sabbath also has that dirge like a lot of grunge did too.
So true. So true.
So that doesn't really resonate with me as much, but your point holds truth. So this is relative. This young man asked me, he tells me the story. He goes, man, my littles, my kids walk around singing songs I play when I'm in the car, and I like hardcore gangster rap. So they're saying bitches and hoes and Uzi and this, and I cut a bitch and blah, blah. And they're like, you know, 11. So they're going to school and they're all, yo, bitch and hoe. And, you know, it's that kind of shit. Now, I know that all of it doesn't, I like a lot of that stuff, but the stuff I usually like doesn't just resonate just with bitches, hoes, and Uzis and money and drugs and shit, right? It's deeper than that even. But his point was, I gotta start listening to something else if I'm gonna be somewhat of an influence on my kids. And I'm like, what do you think is the answer? He goes, man, I want to get back into my hard rock and metal. I'm like, you've come to the right place.
Well,
because
vinyl is also a big part of that, like you said.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
because
yeah. Vinyl's never going to go away. In my opinion, it never really did go away because there were still a lot of clubs, like even dance clubs, where they had legit DJs who were still spinning vinyl. That's one outlet that it's not. They just didn't shut them all down. That was like that's hysterical. You know,
Mhm.
that's hysteria for them to say something like that, and they're just trying to find a reason why the music business is not as uh, growing fruit anymore. You know,
Right.
and it was just a lull and a fad and a phase and a trend, and it's just never going to go away again. But anyway, so that story sort of lends itself to what's happening in the household, what Sirius satellite radio and all of the thousands of stations. There's fucking podcasts about anything you want. You can hear any song you want if you find the right station. So I
So
think that
true.
that's kind of lending itself to that era specific thing that maybe someone like you and I and even Dave are not really grown. You know, it was like, oh well, your record's not selling, we're going to drop you from the label. It's like, oh, do you want me to write some grunge songs? Not necessarily. You know, you don't just like oh well, the kids aren't wearing this shit, so I'm just going to buy whatever. The kid, I don't my clothes are old because no one in my class is dressing like this anymore, so I'm just going to start dressing like them. Fuck no. Where's your individuality? Where is you fighting the fight and wearing the Kiss t-shirt every fucking day? That's still me. That's never going to go away. So I'm
Yeah.
not waiting for anyone to join my army. There's plenty of us out there. That's my rant.
So tell me about the cruises, because I'm trying to embark on that myself. We actually, in my Noisy Mama configuration right now, Billy Morris, who played with Laurence, he's one of the guitar players.
Cool.
And I got and he's doing one with Tough, which
Okay, yeah.
so I've never done that, but I really would like to get into that. My drummer Tommy just came back he played with on a blues cruise. He just called me this morning. He got back and finally out, off of that. But those things are a gas, man. It looks like they're fun and they're people. He says some people go 3 or 4 times a year. They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
just go once,
Oh, they book them all. Some of them don't even get off the boat. They just change the banner. So you got Monsters of Rock cruise with all this, I'm generalizing 80s metal, Armored Saint, except Queensryche, but Cinderella and Tesla and whoever, right? But then I'll be like, hey, so where are you? What time's your flight? Oh no, we're staying on the boat. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they're the Moody Blues cruise, and my dad's with us and he likes them, so we just decided to stay on with him, and we're gonna keep our cabin and everything. We're just keeping the same. I'm like, holy shit, you're gonna be on a boat for like 3 weeks? And they go, yep.
How fat is your wallet?
Well,
You're gonna probably spend that on any kind of vacation. Between 3 and 6 grand, you're gonna spend that on any vacation.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a great experience, I think, and people love it. And that's M3's the same way. The same people, not the same people, but there's a lot of people that go every single year. They make sure that they're already ready to go the next year. They don't even know who's going to be on it.
Getting on one of those, we can talk about off camera, but it's not like, where do I send my press kit? They don't really do that. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So Paul, I want to go back and I definitely want to get to some of your, I want to get to Resurrection Road, but I want to go back to the Noisy Mama album because I've been sort of revisiting it, knowing that we were going to talk to you today. And I want to give you some credit because I think it was an overlooked album. And as you alluded to earlier, to me, there's a great mix of music on here. You've got your rockers, of course. You are a rock band, but there's some other textures and flavors in here. You mentioned Long Way Home. I thought for sure, I mean, that could have been as big as any, 80s arena power ballad of the day. Million Miles, a little more acoustic based.
Mhm.
Another great song. Again, you sort of reminded me, and I'm saying this for the benefit of our listeners who may not have heard of you and might want to go check you out. I hear sort
It's
of
an unsung record. It's
yeah,
unsung.
I hear the
Yeah.
diversity of sort of like a Cinderella, a band that could rock, but also a band that could, do some piano stuff, some acoustic stuff, some very blues based stuff. So I wanted to give you some credit for not just being a one trick pony here. And people may not have heard the record, but if you're a fan of Cinderella, Great White, Tesla, bands that kind of had a foot in each sort of camp,
Or even just AC/DC.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned Johnny Crash earlier. I think that's a great example too. But it was a really well done record, and I think there's some good material on there. And so, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners who may not have heard you, I would ask them to go check it out and give it a chance. I wanted to ask you about the artwork. This artwork is done by Ed Big Daddy Roth, who's
Right on.
famous for creating the Rat Fink character. And if you're into hot rod culture, you know very well what the Rat Fink character is. And I think that style of art can be seen on other album covers or variations of it. I know our friend Chris Gates from Junkyard is a big fan of
Mhm.
Rat Fink, and he's done some illustrations like this. Tell us how you got Roth involved in doing the album cover.
Well, the label, we were trying to come up with what would represent the funness of our shows, our live shows, the crazy, and somebody just one day said, remember Mad Magazine? And yeah, yeah, boom, it's like they approached him, and he had done a few album covers. So, but the funny thing about him was, we came up, we came upon him, we approached him. He said, yeah. When they went to pay him, they sent him a check. He's like, I can't use this. What is this? I don't know what this is. Send me money. So they had to send a courier over with whatever they were paying him to do that.
Wow.
And I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I would never have thought reading Mad Magazine when I was 15, 13, whatever, that there would happen like that. But that was just someone at the label that just came up with that idea, and it stuck really well.
It's a really cool album cover. I mean, obviously Roth's artwork is always great, but I love the colors. I think it represents you well. There's a female driving the hot rod, so of course the Noisy Mama name plays into it. It's really cool. I had to ask you about that because I think it's a standout album cover.
And one other thing I wanted to let you guys know, because you were talking about the diversity of some of the songs we
Yeah,
had.
please.
The piano playing was done by Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah, I saw that. How did you get Nicky Hopkins involved? Now, for people who don't know the name Nicky Hopkins, of course, he's probably most famous for playing with the Stones, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know he did some work on a Faster Pussycat record, and they were stoked to have him. So getting him is a big score. How did that happen?
I think our manager Roger Probert, he was the guy, Englishman. He knew a lot of different people in New York, and that's how we had Mick Rock take photos of us. So we had some good connections with him, and that's kind of how that came about. But just watching him that day, I mean, I just loved being a part of it and just watching him.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're in the room with royalty, so
Right.
that's a great experience for you. What would you say was your biggest shot at glory during the Noisy Mama days? Did you go on any big arena tours opening for somebody, one of your heroes or anything? Or did you get a magazine article that, is a prized possession of yours? What would be the highlight or highlights, plural, of this time with Noisy Mama, 1991, after the album comes out?
Well, our tour was not a big tour. Okay, we were traveling in a van, not even a bus, and we roughed it out. I don't know if that was because of where things were heading with music or whatever, but just actually doing the video was probably the high point. Being on MTV, that says a lot right there. When I'm gone, that'll still be out there somewhere. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
probably it for me.
Yeah. I've said this to Jason many times. It's like I'm always envious of guys who are going to leave a piece of their selves behind the day that they're gone because you've made your mark, you know. Um, I also wanted to ask you, oh, I lost it now. It was something else. Oh, Dave's Brain. My name is Dave, so of course that song title caught my attention.
You lost
What
your brain there for a second,
did.
though. So where was Dave's brain?
Dave's brain is gone. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Dave's brain's
brain
not
is
here,
gone.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well done, Jason.
Well, I
Tell
was
me a
just
story
working
about
with what I just working with what I had to
what I
work
threw
with.
out there. Chum in
Thank
the
you,
water.
Dave.
Chum in the water, right.
Well, I will tell you right now, that was completely written about our guitar player, Dave Scott, and he had a way of daving you. Okay, we experienced it many times. He'd say, you know, we'd be talking about something, and he'd say, "That's like getting a gorilla, giving him a candy bar, and telling him to walk backwards."
What?
We would be
Okay.
like, our heads were like, you know, bulging. Then one time he said something, and we were at his house at Brady Lake, and there was a minor earthquake right after he said it. Like you could feel the house shaking a little bit. We're like,
Whoa.
so that's how Dave Bray came out. I mean, it was like, yeah, you know, barking it, and his, you know, his girlfriend, you know, they had a tumultuous life sometimes. So we kind of I just blended all that kind of stuff together with him, and you know, that's where that came from for sure.
Tell me
Cool.
about Little Brown Jug. What's the inspiration behind that?
That would be living in New York City, drinking every single day. I mean, you know, writing, drinking, writing. We hardly ever played live when we were doing that because when we got signed, only 3 of us got signed. So me and the 2 guitar players, we moved up to New York City, and our managers had an apartment up there that he had rent control. So, you know, I think it was like $800 a month, you know, right on 55th Street.
Wow.
And lots of, you know, going down to Kenny's Castaways and just staying up late, you know, drinking and writing and all that, you know, it just started to weigh on me, and kind of came up with. And of course, Little Brown Jug is what the first song you learn on guitar, right? It's one of the first ones, you know, My Little Brown Jug or whatever it is. So I just kind of came up with that title and went with it.
So the 3 of you were on the contract and basically put the material together for this record. Who rounded out the studio band? Who, you know, how'd you finish out your lineup in time to record, and how'd you go about that? Was it again just management and you guys?
One of the first things we did was the label put us, actually, James Kotak, God, you know, rest in peace, and Jeff Pilson, they came in and did 3 songs with us. So we started that way. We did a demo. It kind of showed us, like, or at least showed me, what it's like to have a real serious rhythm section, you know?
Oh yeah.
And then we were down at Kenny's Castaways, and our bass player Chris was playing with a band called Floating Boats. Rest in peace, Chris, too. He's gone now. But you know, we met him. He was younger than us, but he was a crazy skateboarding you know, ball of fire and good bass player, great bass player. So we grabbed him. So here we have him now. And then we started writing the record. And then we started trying to figure out who we were going to get on drums. And we remembered this guy named Tommy Rich, who we actually opened for Donnie Iris. He was Donnie Iris's drummer. And we remembered him from that first show that got us signed. So we gave him a call, and there it was.
Wow, I haven't heard the name Donnie Iris in a long time, but man, that guy had he was great.
He's still doing it.
Is he really? Wow.
He's 80, 81, and he's still doing it, and he still is. His voice is amazing. Yeah, he's something. He's something else. I got to hang with him just a little bit recently, and about a year ago or whatever, just to talk to him a little bit. But he's a great guy. I got to go on stage with them one night and play Minnie the Moocher on the harmonica, and that was a high point in my life too.
Wow, more power to him.
Hey man, your voice is I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Your voice is great. I just wanted to tell you, you've got a really cool kind of greasy, Steven Tyler grit with, I can hear it in your speaking voice. I was wondering what your speaking voice was. Now that as soon as I heard you say hello, I was like, oh, okay, it's a natural. You've got a natural sort of timbre and as well as grit in your delivery. When did you start? I know all of this is in your bio on your website. Isn't it just paulskowron.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've been doing this such a long time. You mentioned earlier, I'll tie this in too, that you not hurt yourself, but you lost your voice there for a second, and you had to figure out how to come back and not lose it again. And I understand, it wasn't a voice doctor. It was just a coach that you went and saw, and you learned a few things about control, I'm sure. But your voice on the record, and everyone should just, at least to hear you sing rock and roll, should check out the Noisy Mama record, because it might have been your prime. I don't know.
My prime is right now, actually. I'm serious. I'm singing better now than I've ever sang in my life. I mean,
fantastic.
I'm really amazed at that. And, again, I do a project called Leadsmith, which is an Aerosmith Leadsmith band, or Aerosmith Led Zeppelin thing, just to keep my voice sharp and strong.
Yeah.
And I'm singing 2.5 hours of that stuff, probably 5 times a year we do it. But yeah, I mean, right now, just having great vocal training was so much, because before that, I had no idea what I was doing. I was drinking on stage and singing Aerosmith and singing Led Zeppelin and then singing Noisy Mama or White Noise and things like, we started as a cover band, and then we got an original set together, and then we started doing our original set, and then we started adding lights, and we started adding propane flames, and we had a 4-man crew, and we built a rock show before we even got signed. And that's part of the reason I think we got a lot of attention and people come to see us, because we just had a show.
Yeah, you're based out of Youngstown, Ohio, is that right?
I live close to Youngstown. My wife and I, we moved around a lot, but we're back here, and I'm real close to the city.
The Noisy Mama was basically born in Youngstown, is that right?
Yeah.
So how did you gain attention? How did you get major label attention from Youngstown, Ohio in 1990? And I'm not putting down Youngstown, Ohio, but it's certainly not the center of the music business industry.
Well, the beautiful thing about Youngstown is, there's many, many great artists that left, Phil Keaggy. I mean, they started here, but with us, we started as White Noise. Jimmy and Carl, Jimmy Gamina and Carl Infant, they did some kind of Star Search thing before they even had a band. And that's when they met Roger Probert, our manager. And Roger's the one who kind of got us, they started putting those guys in those kind of places. They had a different singer before me, and they did some demos and stuff like that, and started. In fact, Rainbow was one of the, bands that they were kind of looking at writing for and stuff like that. And they were young then, they were in their 20s then. But that's kind of how it started, and it just started to snowball from there. They had a singer named Bruce Ball, and he had like a more of a heavy metal, high end kind of Iron Maiden voice.
Yeah.
So when I joined, it took it in a different direction and a different songwriting too. So
yeah, you're a bit bluesier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up on Aerosmith. And before that, when I was a little kid, they called me the Tasmanian Devil. I don't know why, but I would scream or whatever it was when I was a kid. Maybe that's how I got the rasp in my voice. But I've had my voice has always been there for me. When I lost my voice, I didn't realize it was just laryngitis. I thought I was like done for, in the music business. I thought that there was going to be no more singing for me. But once I got my vocal teacher, who I kind of lied my way into because he did not take on rock singers. So he was the head of the vocal department at Dana School of Music, which is one of the top music schools in the nation, and it's right here in Youngstown. Met up with him, had one lesson. He's like, "You're no lounge singer," and I said, "Yeah, but you got to give me one lesson at least." So he gave me one, and he took me on, and he changed my life when it came to singing.
Wow, wow. Bring us up to this record, Resurrection Road. Tell us, when you went into this, what were some of the lessons learned from Noisy Mama, either business-wise or artistically, that helped shape this? Because this is a little bit different than the Noisy Mama stuff.
That record, when Noisy Mama was done with, there's two guys, Jim Tatarka and Mike Simon. They had a little studio, and they said, "Hey, come and record for free." They just said they were fans of the band. They said, it had to be after hours. So that record has at least 25, 30 people on it. It's not a band. It's just me going in. I wrote and demoed everything at my house, and then I started recording it. And as whoever was leaving that day from their session, I'd say, "Hey, what do you do?" They'd be like, "Oh, I play. Oh, come here, listen to this." And then I'd throw them back in there, and they'd start recording. So we got a lot of things done that way. And I called upon people I knew, like Danny Shapiro. He did all the keyboards on it. He's a phenomenal player around here. Different drummers. Tommy Rich, actually, my drummer, he actually came in and did some of the playing, but he also mixed it. Just really relied on friends and acquaintances and people that were out there. I was fresh off of Noisy Mama, so I had a little bit of clout left,
Yeah.
So I took it. And I'm forever grateful to those guys for letting me do that there.
Is all of your music available on your website, including the Noisy Mama record, or is the Noisy Mama record pretty much impossible to get a hold of?
Correct. I mean, I can't sell the Noisy Mama record on my website.
Right.
It's out there. It's actually on YouTube. Just like the White Noise record is also, because the White Noise record's out there, and we did that really, after the Noisy Mama record, because one thing people that used to come and see us as White Noise, we didn't do any of those songs on our record. So they were like, I think they were a little disappointed in us. Like, why didn't you do all these songs that we know and everything? So in a lot of ways, we did that record just for them, so they could hear those songs again.
That's there's some good stuff on there. That's a pretty hard rocking record, and I wasn't clear on the timeline between the various bands. But that's well worth checking out also. And I'm sorry, is that available on your website?
No.
Okay.
No, but it is available out there. It's if you just Google it or whatever, it's out there on, I think, Spotify and everything like that. So
you're talking about the White Noise record?
Correct. It's called Out of the Ashes. That was actually another reason we did that. Was our drummer Alan, he played on that, our original drummer. He was dealing with throat cancer, and he was quite an amazing player. He played, probably 3 weeks before he passed away. He was still playing drums, and he was really, really dealing with a lot. But he recorded that, and we got Carl, our bass player from the old days, and now Carl is back in the Noisy Mama thing with me now. So he's, he came full circle, and he's right back with it, doing it.
So bring us up to date. Noisy Mama is back in a new with a new lineup, and where are you going from here? You got some shows lined up? You got any recording in the works? What's the future?
Yeah, we have a show on April 6th. It's at the West Side Bowl in which you can go on my website, paulskowron.com, and all that info's on there. It's at the West Side Bowl in Youngstown, and it's like it's a cool kind of venue. It's a bowling alley, but they, it's, they tore out some of the lanes and made a stage at the end. So, a lot of bands play there. I'm taking this one step at a time. I mean, I'm doing show by show to see how we can make this happen. How many shows we could do a year. That's about 1,000 seats. So we're gonna see how we could sell that out, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So that's April 6th, West Side Bowl in Youngstown, Ohio.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear you're giving this another shot, because I don't know that a lot of people heard you the first time around, and that's just the nature of the business. And it's certainly not a discredit to the talent of the band or anything. And as Jason mentioned earlier, your voice is you've got some pipes, man. It's a real standout. When I was listening, and I've heard Noisy Mama in the past, but it's been many years since I've heard the stuff. So I've been revisiting it lately. And as I said, I hear some. I hope you don't mind the comparisons, but for people that may not be familiar, I hear some Tom Kiefer. I hear some Vicky James Wright from Johnny Crash. I hear Steven Tyler. I hear some Jack Russell. I don't think anyone would argue those are all great singers. So, and
I hear a little bit of David Lee Roth too.
Oh man,
there's a lot of sort of like talk sing, in your storytelling in between your melody lines. So you're singing, but then you have this rough and tumble kind of like little thing you add at the end of the line to give it color and finish out the story of what you really are saying, right? And I feel like you're really, really good at that. And that's an entertainer. That's almost like a Broadway and a vaudeville attack with, just good old AC/DC rock and roll, blues bass, heart, metal stuff. So
well,
you're well versed in that.
I know that I'm a total ham when it comes. I was when I was a kid. I was 6th grade. I was in Oklahoma. I looked out in the crowd. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to perform for people, and I'd like to, also, teach younger people. I mean, I'm going to start doing that too, teaching not only voice but performance.
Yeah.
How get them out of their shell, and how to just because people really want to be entertained, and they want to have fun, and they want to be a part of what you're doing, and that's important.
Yeah, I think that there's, the way that you can, have you heard of this thing called Toastmasters?
No.
They basically teach you how to give a speech.
Oh, okay.
They're coaching you on how to give a speech, right?
Right.
Or to how to give a toast at your friend's wedding, or how to teach a class, or how to command the attention of people who are in the room without being a dick, etc.
Gotcha.
And I feel like that's a bit of a lost art in rock and roll. I mean, there's usually a reason why someone ends up being the fucking front man,
Right.
I mean, Steven Tyler was a drummer, and he couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. So they just handed him the microphone. You gonna do a better job than me? Fuck yeah, fuck these drums. I'm gonna show you how it's done. And they're like, okay, I guess we need a new drummer. So
well, that's the thing. When the teacher says, "Would you like to teach the class?"
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Sadly, I can relate. I've almost gotten into trouble, and then they just finally did let me teach. So. The thing is I feel like if it's a girl or a boy or someone who's just has a shy personality, that's fine. But there is a way with guys like you. I'll use you as the go-to, who can be an icebreaker. You can teach them how to break the ice enough to fit their personality without them just, oh man, you need to dress up crazy and wear fake eyelashes. And right. No, because that's not this person's personality. So teaching them, showing them how to get on the catwalk and command their eyes is a thing that you could probably do after after you assess how you can go about doing that. Because if you go in all like David Lee Roth and go, no man, you're doing that all wrong, woo, they're going to be like, that's
Mhm.
not how so there's a way to do what you want to do. I think that's a great idea, and I really do hope you follow through with some sort of Paul Skowron class of shit talking.
Well, it's in the works. It's in the works.
Nice. I
Skowron
think you'd be really
101.
good at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this. This is fantastic. This is also what keeps this kind of thing alive, because people want to see this. They want to tune in. They want to, know what it was like back then. Because back then, those scenes from 80 to 90, I mean, that was quite a music scene.
Yeah. I think we all miss those days and times. There was so much great music came out of there, and I often think it's marginalized, unfortunately. But I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and one of the great things about music, and one of the reasons I think we all love it, is its ability to connect us to memories. And for a certain age group, me, and I think both of you guys as well, that era of music, it's not just the music, it's the memories associated with it. And we were younger and we were wilder and we were having great times, and you'll never forget that. And so we're always grateful for that time period and the music that went with it, that provided the soundtrack to maybe a simpler time in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But I think every generation is going to have the music that reminds them of their youth. And for me, a lot of the stuff in the 80s, even though the serious critics might take issue with it or downplay it or whatever, you'll never rob me from it, rob it from me, because it's that important to me. It just brings back so much great memories.
I feel like in our minds, that's very well said, Dave. No surprise. The addition to that would be the era that Paul mentioned. I like it, 80 to 90. Set a fucking standard.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's just an opinion or not, no one can really argue your opinion, even if it happens to be mine as well. But 80 to 90, just as a chunk of time, set a standard for music, for hard rock music especially.
Yeah.
Because big band and jazz and fusion and blah, 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 and whatever, sure. And even pop songs. I mean, the Beatles since the 60s and 70s. So whatever. I feel like, and you could the argue would be generationally, right? There could be someone who's, go-to is Green Day, and that's fine. No crime. Green Day is a great hard rock band. They argue that they're a punk band. Now, the interesting thing is about that, if you take a young person who's 22 right now, 23, and when they were a little dude, their favorite band in the world was Green Day. Well, guess what? That and a lot of bands sitting right next to them, that they created a whole revolution of sorts, sets a fucking standard.
Right.
So
exactly.
you can't argue with that 22-year-old about what it is we're talking about. The bands are just different.
Right. And no one, I don't think anybody will ever do what we did between those years, those 80s to 90s. I mean, it was, I don't know if it's ever repeatable and whether it should be.
Yeah, well, you got that right. The cool thing about something that I just said, and I'm not patting myself on the back here, but if you talk to the guys in Green Day, they would probably agree with what we're talking about. They would agree that, and it's not going to be, 98 to 2008. It's going to be 80 to 90. They're going to be like, holy shit, yeah, that's the deck. The guys in Green Day are our age.
Right.
So they're not going to argue with the standard that we talk about. You see my point? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand.
It's basically age specific, and it might have some fray here and there, give and take, but it's about as close as it would. I think it's close.
The bottom line is you just can't rob people of their memories.
No.
Memories are forever, and people hold them near and dear to their heart. And whatever music is associated with those memories will always be near and dear to that person's heart.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's a generational thing. Some people are going to point to Green Day. We're going to point to Kiss. Our parents would point to Elvis,
Yeah.
and 20 years from now, they'll point to somebody different. But you can't break that connection between the memories and the music.
You can try to deny, but it's impossible. It always creeps back in.
Yeah, you can pretend it didn't, but
if you're in a group of people that are like making fun of the dude wearing a Kiss t-shirt, and you, for whatever reason, want to get in with them and start joining in on making fun of the dude wearing a Kiss t-shirt when you've got one underneath the shirt you're wearing under your jacket, something's wrong.
It's the whole saying.
Something's wrong. So
it's the whole saying, dance like nobody's watching, So when you're
Right.
when you're at home and you might be out there all hard and acting tough, and you're too cool for this and you're too cool for that, but you'll go home and you'll play air guitar to a Poison record. God damn it!
Rock like everybody's watching.
Yeah.
All right, if I see that T-shirt out there, I want a part of it.
Right.
Oh man, this has been great. We really appreciate you
Same
spending
here.
time with us today, and we thank you for the music past, and we look forward to the music in the future. And we wish you success with the latest incarnation of Noisy Mama. Folks can find information about Paul and Noisy Mama at paulskowron.com. We should spell that last name for folks. Skowron. Is that correct?
Correct.
Paul, Skoww. I lost it halfway.
Skowron.
There you go. I can say it. I can't spell it. Skowron.
And a special thanks to Mr. Unger for
Yes.
introducing me to you guys.
Indeed.
Once again, Paul Unger saves the fucking day. Hey, Paul Unger. I have a saying about Paul Unger that he blushes when I say it, but you probably don't hear it because he probably is not telling people that I say this about him. But if Paul Unger, pause. This goes for Metal Dave too. This goes for Dave right here. If Paul and Dave are a fan of your band, they're the kind of fan that will get in the car, turn on your record, roll down all the windows, and scream at you while driving down your neighborhood street going, you guys need to fucking hear this. You guys need to buy this. If Paul and Dave are fans of your band, I'm talking about Paul Unger, you are a lucky son of a bitch.
Good guy.
Yeah. Well, music excites me. That's no secret. And if I'm excited about something, I want other people to be excited about it. So I will talk about it to anyone who will listen, and oftentimes to those who won't, but I won't shut up.
Right on. And where would we be without music of any kind? Whatever it is, there's always some kind of music going on in the background, even if it's nature. Even if it's a bird singing, there's always some kind of music going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, it's a pleasure spending time with you today. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave with our special guest today, Paul Skowron from Noisy Mama on the Talk Louder podcast.